Fernanda. How are you? Thank you so much for joining us. How are you going tonight?
I'm good. Thanks, Natalie. How are you?
I'm good. It's a bit tired at 8 o'clock, but good. I'm excited about this. I feel
Yeah.
like I'm going to learn a lot from you as well, because as I say to everyone, as mental health is just number one for me. It's
Mm,
like
mm.
there's stigmas. I've spoken to Anushka and I've spoken to Katrina as well, who are counselor and psychologist, and so there's a lot about mental health in this series because it's so important. A resume is nothing
Mm,
unless you've got the self confidence to do something with it.
mm,
But I'm specifically excited about our chat because I know that have a you do quite unique therapies, I think.
mm.
So we're going to find out more about that later. So I always see the little icon on LinkedIn that says that we're live. So I talk a bit before that comes up. Um, so I guess if you are watching live and you've got questions, please just comment and then we will do our best to answer them. And if you're watching the replay, then absolutely happy to support you and help you and answer questions as well. So Fernanda, would you like to introduce yourself first of all?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Fernanda. I am from Brazil and I've been living in Australia for a long time now, geez,
Ah,
22 years now.
wow. I didn't know it was
Yeah.
that long. I thought it was
Yeah.
me, like 10 years, but it's a long.
No, no. Well, it was on and off, but yeah, I first arrived in 2002.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What visa did you come on?
I came as a student.
You came as an international student. Amazing.
Yeah. I came in as an international student. Then I went on a very short 6 months partner visa because my boyfriend at the time, then he became my husband. He was doing like a postgrad, like a master's
Yeah,
start degree.
yeah.
Then we went back home and then applied for PR. And that's when we got our residency based on our qualifications, so psychology and his qualifications as well.
Excellent. So, anyone
Yeah,
watching who's currently on international student visa or even, a skilled migrant, Fernanda
yes,
has been through it.
I have.
Always good to hear. So, what
Yeah.
do you do now? Tell us what you do now.
So I have been working. So since we arrived back as residents, life is very different. As they have more opportunities, you don't have to be so worried about working and like how many hours you can work and having to pay for school and all of that.
Yeah,
So I've been working as an English teacher, and then came back and started to go back to my original career, which is psychology. So at the moment, I'm working as a student counselor.
yeah,
So I work for Kaplan Business School
yeah.
as a student counselor, and I have my private practice as well. And I see my clients.
Perfect. So, so Fernanda works a lot with international students. She was an international student. So that's really important to know, I think. And with your private practice, do you mostly work with people from overseas or do you help everyone?
I help everyone, but it's interesting because a lot of people come to me because they see in my profile, because I advertise, on Instagram and on Psychology Today, and they see I'm migrant, so it resonates with them.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I do have a lot of South Americans, South Africans, New Zealanders, Europeans. So I do see some Australians, but yeah, it is a bit of a mix. But I feel like for migrants, I think they feel that they resonate with my story.
100%.
Bless you.
I've spoken to some of my clients who, they've stopped seeing psychologists because they felt that they didn't understand them. So definitely think so.
Yeah.
Tell us about your private practice. So you're a registered counselor and a psychologist.
Yes.
And so I'm particularly interested in what you call somatic
Yeah.
therapy.
Yes.
So can you just briefly explain what that is? And I guess follow-up question would be how that can help people, why they should know about it.
Okay. Well, So, so somatic comes from soma, which in Latin is body. So basically, it is a body focused therapy. And some people think as I'm a physiotherapist. No, there's nothing to do with being a physio and working with the body. But most of the modalities of psychology out there nowadays, they are based, we call them like a top bottom, right? A top down. So we start from the mind and it's very intellectual. So we talk a lot. We say talk therapy. So you come to me with anxiety and then you talk about how are you feeling, and we can explore that. We can challenge your thoughts, but it's really like a brain, like we're working with your brain.
Yeah.
Which it's good. It does work. But I find that it will work to an extent because all the stress and trauma and emotions, they are stored, guess where? In the body. Right? So like when you're stressed, you feel it in the body, you feel it in your stomach. When you're anxious, your heart starts to race, your palms start to sweat. So some people get like diarrhea, like the body is where the emotions are. So if we work with the head, that's fine. It goes to a certain way, but you want move, we want get all that emotion moving.
Yeah.
If yeah, I don't know if
it makes sense to me because I'm learning about it for myself.
Yes.
But yeah, it makes sense to me. I guess if anyone's watching and you have any questions about it,
Yes.
yeah. So I guess from my perspective, if it helps people to understand, is I get really tense in my shoulders and my neck, and I've only recently, the past few months, started to understand that the tension that I feel is actually my anxiety. It's my emotions, and as soon as I realize that, I'm able to see kind of where my triggers are, where I'm actually the reason why it's coming on so quickly. So if you have headaches, what type of body, when we talk about you feel it in your body, for me, I know because I've read about it, it's that my shoulders, headache, you said diarrhea, you said like heart palpitations in your stomach. What else should people be looking out for?
Well, headaches, a lot of skin issues, eczema, allergies. One big one is IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, constipation, all sorts of things that they actually first, they will manifest in the body, but they are psychological issues that it's been repressed and not dealt with. Because if you think about it, we're disconnected. Most people, most of us, and I'm saying most of us, and I include myself, I used to be very disconnected from my body.
Yeah, agree.
Very, very disconnected, very cerebral, very intellectual, thinking about it, doing, go, 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 and disconnected. And when we have to deal with emotions, because it could be a cultural thing, like when we are vulnerable, we are not allowed to express our emotions, we are punished for it, we're seen as weak, all of those things. So
don't even understand emotions.
No, we don't. And then when the emotion comes, we don't know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
So these emotions, they have to go somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And it makes sense, right? It does make sense. So can you tell us the main emotions that we're talking about here? So I obviously know there's a huge spectrum of emotions, but if I'm wrong, where there's is the 4 main ones, is that correct? No?
Well,
I'm simplifying her entire career of psychology.
Look, I would say people come, it's interesting. International students or migrants, I would just say, they usually come to me because they experience anxiety. That's a big, big one.
Yeah.
Or they're experiencing grief and more of a depressed mood, or they are feeling very lonely and homesick.
Yeah.
Right. So in those 3 scenarios, we're dealing with angst, we're dealing with anxiety, we're dealing with frustration, we're dealing with sadness and grief. But a big one that I think most of us suppress is anger.
Yeah, agree. Can I, sorry to interrupt, but when you say grief, I think I know what type of grief you're talking about, but can you explain for anyone who might not know the type of grief that you're referring to?
Well, there's a lot of, grief. We experience grief when we experience loss. And we're not just talking about the death of someone,
Yeah,
but think about it when you move
yeah,
country, even if it's temporary.
yeah,
Like we lose our country, we lose our language, we lose our food, we lose our people that we love, we lose our sense of identity, and we feel lost. So that's a huge loss,
absolutely. So
right?
absolutely. And there's this thing, which I know you'll know about, migratory grief, which I've learned about through another psychologist from Argentina who
Uh-huh.
collaborated with as well. And yeah, so she taught myself and my community about migratory grief and all the loss
Uh-huh.
that we feel about that. So I assume that's what you were talking about, and how, yeah, how real it really is. When you migrate, you lose so much.
Yeah, you do.
Absolutely. And the people that I work with, the professionals, like, they generally lose their professional identity, which
Yes.
in itself, carries low self-esteem, losing confidence. So many of my clients or community members will say, I've lost so much confidence since coming to Australia. And that's
Hmm.
because, you're pushed into a survival job. You're not working in your job that you studied and got so much experience in. You're got language barriers, so you can't explain yourself as well as you want to. Australia
Yes.
might not recognize your qualifications, so you think that maybe it's a waste of my time. There's so many different things that
Yes.
will make people feel like the loss of identity and the anxiety and everything that you're referring to.
Yes.
So going back to that, what would you suggest they do? Like,
Yeah. So on that note, one very recurring theme is for the students that I work with and migrants, exactly like that. When they come to Australia, and I deal with people from all around the world, but let's say if they're not a native speaker, if they don't speak English as a first language and they come to Australia, it's like it's an unconscious um is an unconscious process, but they exile, I would say, like they suppress their identity because they feel that if they really express who they are, they're not going to see, they're not going to be as worthy as if, so they, for example, they are ashamed of their accent and they suppress it and they try to pretend that they don't have an accent, and they wanted um to kind of exile and to put it away any sign that will, any clue that they don't belong here. So
yeah,
what I say to my clients, to my students, is stop doing that and really celebrate your identity, who you are. Because if you can't do that, you need to celebrate. You need to say, you know what? I am Brazilian. I come from Brazil. I've got history. I've got culture.
yeah,
I'm in Australia because, I chose it to be, but I don't need to be ashamed of this.
yeah,
And I think when you go towards that, it's less heavy and you don't have to, so that the sense of loss is not as severe.
yeah, absolutely. And I guess for you, from a psychologist's perspective, that would take a lot of kind of like change in the brain. The
Yes.
brain would have to change, take
Yes.
away those mindsets and thinking about other things. And I have no idea what incredible work that you do, but I can only imagine it is work that you would have to go through as an international
Yes.
student or a
Yeah.
migrant.
But sometimes it's just a different perspective that you offer them.
Yeah, yeah,
Sometimes it doesn't need to be an incredible work because it's everything is there.
yeah,
I always say to them, just look at you, look in the mirror, and who
yeah,
are you? Like,
yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. And so, thinking about somatic therapies, and what I promised today was that you would tell us about some, like, key triggering strategies that you have, the triggering strategies that you would help people to use. So let's imagine a couple of scenarios. So someone has a job, they've managed to get a professional job, and they are not feeling confident at work. They're unable to express themselves as fluently or articulately as they did in their job in their home country. And as such, they are not making friends, their colleagues, etc. They cannot join in the small talk. They fear they might lose their job because of their accent or their English level. We say English level like this because I know your English level is good enough to get the job, but you unfortunately sometimes don't feel that way. So they feel anxious going to work. They feel have imposter syndrome going to work. What strategy would you tell them to do to try and kind of accept it? You know, like what would you tell them to do, and what would the reverse be?
Yeah, that's a very good example because it's really, really common, right? And it was common for me for a long, long time. I didn't want to work as a psychologist because I thought my English is not good enough, you know, all that narrative, that the stories that you tell ourselves.
Yeah.
So I just want to just quickly talk about the somatic therapy. So somatic therapy is not just one therapy. There's a lot of therapies out there that use the body, right?
Could you tell us a few?
Yes.
Sorry, and like what they are? Yeah.
Yes. So we do somatic experiencing, which it's not what I use a lot. I use elements of it, but basically what it is instead, in this case that you gave in his example, instead of trying to talk yourself out of the anxiety, what we do is actually go towards the anxiety and we feel the anxiety in the body. So somatic experiencing, meaning we experience, very experiential. So all somatic therapies are experiential. So with the therapist, because we need someone to act as a container. Because what is anxiety? If you think about it, we're very scared of the sensations that we have in the body. So we start to feel the heart racing, or the thoughts racing, or sweating, or getting agitated. We fear the bodily sensations. So if we have someone there to act as a container for you that is safe for you to experience all of that in a safe place, so you can feel it and let go rather than try to push it away. Okay. So that's somatic experiencing. It's amazing. It's great. I use elements of it. We do tapping. I use a lot of tapping with my clients. Tapping basically is we use the meridians of acupuncture, those points of energy, and we actually we tap on those points. So there is a sequence of points just on our face and on the thorax. And with the tapping is the most important thing. But if you have a therapist that you can work with, you can talk. So for example, we can say, even though I'm feeling very anxious, I fully accept and love myself. And you can have those statements. It's beautiful and it's very calming. And there's so much research. It's not just like Lulu, crazy, hippie. There's a lot of research done on tapping, because what it does, it lowers your cortisol levels.
Yeah.
And it stimulates a very important nerve that we have that's called the vagus nerve. That it is like the king of our parasympathetic nervous system, which is the part of our nervous system that is responsible for calming and relaxing. So when we are anxious, we activate the sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight or flight.
Yes.
So when we are in fight or flight, and then we can't relax and calm. And so when we tap, we activate the nervous system.
Interesting. Okay.
Yes. And there's also, there's breathing, which is, it's not like but we can do breath work, which is really good as well. It works both ways. So if you're dealing with someone who is very depressed and finding it hard to find motivation and energy to get out of bed and procrastinating, so you can work with very high energetic breathing techniques.
Okay.
But if you're dealing with anxiety, we can do with very relaxing and calming breathing techniques. So the breath it's so powerful.
Yeah,
it can really change the state of your nervous system.
Perfect. Okay,
Yes.
so are they the 3 ones that you would use with your clients?
I use, but my favorite one is what I called IFS, which is internal family systems. That is,
This, yeah.
I know it's interesting because I live and breathe this. I think everyone knows about it, but it's getting very popular. It's so the founder, the guy who created IFS, he's still alive. He's American. It's been around for 25 years.
Mm-hmm.
But if you think about in the psychology realm, it's quite young. If
Yeah,
you compare like with Freud and Jung and all of that. But basically what it is a concept that internally we have like a little family. Like it's not to do with our external family,
yeah,
but they are the parts of ourselves. Like when you say, oh, a part of me really wants to go for that job, but a part of me, it's insecure.
yeah, yeah,
So we work with this concept that we are multidimensional. We're not one person. We don't have one identity. We
yeah.
have sub personalities. It doesn't mean that you have multi personalities. That is a different thing. But we work with those parts, and how we work with them, how we connect with them, is through the body, through visualizations, through breathing, through experiencing all those emotions. And
Wow.
it's amazing. It's a game change. I love it. Yeah. There's
Hey.
another live on that. I can.
Yeah.
It's
I was just thinking that. Ooh, workshop.
it's fascinating. It's fascinating.
So, okay, so they're the core somatic therapies, and is that the
Yes.
correct term? Somatic
Yes.
therapies.
Somatic. Yes.
So
Exactly.
I guess if someone had the situation with work where they felt, they felt anxious, they felt like they were an imposter, they were really nervous to go to work, that horrible
Mhm.
feeling when you dread work, which we've
Yes.
all had. Is there something that they can do by themselves that will calm their nervous system that you would suggest? Or is that just too simplified?
Well, there's a lot of things that they can do. Let's say if they're not prepared to work with a therapist, right? And they just feeling they're getting very anxious and they don't know what to do. Tapping.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. So tapping, if you Google tapping and you can say EFT, meaning emotional freedom technique,
Yeah.
EFT tapping for anxiety, that will be, you can see the sequence and they can do this. They can do it before going to bed. They can do it before going to work, even at work. If they're having they're dreading it, they're having a panic attack, they're feeling very anxious, they can just tap. They always work. Another thing that I like, that I always recommend is journaling and trying to understand what is it,
Yeah.
right, that I am dreading so much. And, as you journal, I say we say it's a mental dump, right? So we take all the mental space and we put it on paper, and it gives you clarity. You can start looking at your thoughts and trying to organize it and understand yourself better.
Yeah.
So journaling is really, really good.
Excellent. That's a really good one. That's probably something that we don't realize is so powerful, and it really,
Mm-hmm.
really is.
Yes. And one thing that is oversimplified, and I don't want to do that, but I always say to my students, my clients, this is non-negotiable. It's physical exercise.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we need to work with the body. And again, if we're not doing, professionally, if you're not really working with those parts and just moving your body, I always say our body, if you think about it, our body, they say is like 90% water. Is it right?
I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
know. I think
yes,
I said
yes.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it is 90% water. Even though we see a lot of matter, is 90% water. And I say, what happens with stagnant water? It goes yucky, mucky, moldy, stale. We
Yeah.
need to move. Our body was meant to move. So if we're feeling yucky, like if you go for a walk, your mood changes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So 30 minutes, 20 minutes exercise every day. You don't need to go to the gym. You don't need, to do anything expensive or fancy, but just really getting yourself moving your body. Yeah, even if you're doing like jump jacks or some sprints or running on the spot or going up and down the stairs.
And even on YouTube, there's a lot of workouts at home that you can use as well. I do yoga through YouTube.
Yes,
I can
yes,
classes. So yeah, there
yeah.
is a lot there as well. Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. And always I think the key here is to be curious.
Yeah.
When we are facing with a problem, when we're facing with an issue, whether it's a job or a relationship, if you think about it, the first thing we do is to be so harsh on ourselves.
Yeah.
And to criticize. And, we are so strict with ourselves. So think about, with curiosity and kindness and compassion, what is it that's happening?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would just add to that as well, is because I know from myself, it's like the way that we speak to ourselves, we
Oh,
wouldn't speak to other people.
no,
Um,
no.
and I just feel that so many, and I did it, I'm sure you did it, when people move here, and I say new migrants, but it could be 2, 3, 4 years. Like, it takes a long time for us to settle in Australia.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
it's such a stressful situation, and we're focusing so much on all of the hard things in life, such as getting the job that we love, being successful, making sure our family sees that we're successful, feeling like we don't waste our time, possibly financial stress and sending money back home,
Yes.
learning English, then continuously stressing yourself to make sure your English is perfect, which is doesn't exist. So there's always something to feel anxious about, to feel like you're not good enough about. And I guess, 100% working with a professional. And I know from just sales pitchy for you, I know Fernanda's services are really, really affordable, because I told her that she probably should put her prices up. I know how like, I just know how much, because when we look at professionals like psychologists, it's like, it's not just their hourly rate, it's like professional development that you have to do. You have to, pay for your memberships. You have to pay for registrations. There's a lot of factors, and that's why the costs can be higher.
Yeah, we pay for supervision, and we also have to do our own therapy.
Yeah,
Because, think about it, seeing 30 clients a week, it's very draining. So we need to also decompress and debrief, and then on top of that, you need to discuss cases.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I forgot about that one. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, I'm a big advocate for actually seeking support, because I don't think we can do this on our own. If you've got a broken wrist, you go see the doctor.
Yes.
And a lot of us, and I understand, there's still some stigma and some doubts about whether people will understand you, whether maybe you feel like it's not important compared to other people. Everything is important. If it's impacting your day-to-day life, and you feel anxious, and you feel like you're losing confidence, and you feel nervous, and you've got imposter syndrome, and everything is important. And it might be as simple as just speaking to someone, and someone validating your emotions will help you through them.
Absolutely.
So, going back to the tapping, so could that be used for interview anxiety as well?
Yes.
Yeah. So it could be
Yes.
used for pretty much everything. Like, if someone's anxious at work, if someone's anxious going to a networking event, if someone's anxious going to an interview, if someone's
Anything.
anxious speaking on the phone. So can you
Yes.
walk us through that one? Can you show us, or is it too difficult to show now?
No, we can show you. So there's a lot of so the basic recipe that we say, right? So we start with, this part of the hand here. We say the karate chop.
Any left or right?
Any left or right, it doesn't matter if you're left-handed or right-handed. Because I'm right-handed, I use my left hand. So then you got your index and your, what do you call this finger? This middle finger.
Middle finger. Thank
Yeah.
you. I don't know all the words.
I don't know. Like my kids call it the root finger.
Oh, yeah.
So we go here. So then we start tapping here. And that's when we will choose a statement. So for example, if you are anxious about a job interview, right? So I'm feeling anxious. And the very important thing here is, and I think that's a key element, and I always teach my clients, we have the power of our words, right? So when you say, I am anxious, like, oh, I am. So you're just saying, this
Yeah,
is who I am. That's my identity, right?
yeah.
So, oh, I am a mess. I'm hopeless. I am this. No, you're not. No, you are not. Right. So that's the beauty or the multiplicity again, is like you have parts. So that there's a part of you that is anxious. So what we do, we differentiate that and we distance ourselves. So you say, I'm feeling anxious.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. Not I am anxious. So then you go, okay, so I am anxious. And we go, even though I am feeling anxious, and you just tap.
Yeah.
I completely love and I accept myself. So when we say that, we send in the signal that even though that feeling is so difficult and it's okay to have it. We don't want to get rid of it. So amongst all the pain and the angst and the distress, we're still finding room for acceptance and love.
Yeah. And
so
I'm so sorry to interrupt.
No.
Because I know sometimes people might not want to say that. So sometimes it might feel hard for someone to say,
That's fine. They don't have to
change it. Like, I can do this. Like,
absolutely.
So you
So
can
yes,
what you feel comfortable with. Yeah.
Yes. So you can say, even though I'm feeling anxious, and then you can get really specific as you go around. So even though I'm feeling anxious about this interview, I believe I can do it.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And then you do that 3 times, and then you go to the points. So the points are, we do here in the middle of the brow, and then the side of the brow. And as we do it, we can just have one word. So it could be anxiety. And then we do like 7 times. So anxiety. Anxiety. So what we're doing here is under your eye.
Yeah.
Anxiety. Under your nose.
Anxiety.
And like on your chin. Anxiety. And then on the collarbone, like between your collarbones, like here. Anxiety. You can use 2 fingers, or you can use your hand. Anxiety. Then you do on your brow line, just under your armpit. This was a bit tricky, so you can like do that. And then you end at the crown of the head.
Yeah.
Anxiety. Then after you go there, so you take a deep breath in, and then you reassess how you're feeling. But when we're doing this, is interesting, because what we're doing is, even though we are experiencing this, we're sending signals to the body that we are okay.
Yeah, right. So it's like is it the cortisol? No.
The cortisol levels they go down.
They go down.
It's like, oh, okay, so my body, like my mind, my brain thinks we experience anxiety, but the body is sending me other signals. So it's like tricking the body, right? So like, oh, okay, so my mind knows I'm anxious about this, but my body's actually receiving signs to relax and not to go super anxious about it.
Perfect. So we can do that for pretty much any time you feel anxious. And is there any other emotions like nervousness, or like maybe you just feel like an imposter? Because I know imposter syndrome is a really big problem. You feel like you don't belong. You feel like an imposter. You're lacking the self-confidence that you're not good enough, etc. Could you do it for that type of thing as well? Pretty much.
Well, you can, but it will take more rounds, as I think it's a more layered, like thinking about imposter syndrome. It's very complex, right? We have to go deeper and try to understand the core beliefs that person has. And, it's usually related to self-esteem and, lack of self-worth and all of that. So, yeah. Thank you. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. You're welcome.
Yeah, you're welcome. And thank you for that as well. If you've got any questions, please feel free. This is amazing. I'm definitely going to use this.
It's really good. It's amazing. I'm actually doing a whole certification of tapping in March. So then I'm happy to share more. We're going to do tapping for addiction and eating, emotional eating, because it's a big one. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, sure. And so I guess maybe I'll reach out to you for this one. So any other, we've talked about, I mean, the common feelings that a lot of migrants who first move to Australia have, and saying first can be maybe many years, or maybe they've worked in hospitality for 5 years and they're finally ready to work in their field. What other feelings did you have when you first moved here? Maybe let's think about the migratory grief. What could we do about that? What would you suggest about the grief that people might feel about losing their identity in their home and everything that we spoke about?
Yes. So I think it's a very common, and as I said, as new migrants, we tend to, well, you see I think you see different parts of behavior. So you might see migrants who come and they're so attached to their identity that they don't allow themselves to actually explore and start a new life in Australia. Because they feel it's similar, when someone like your partner dies and then you don't allow yourself to fall in love again because you feel that you are betraying that person.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
So I see that a lot.
that makes
So they
sense.
get too attached. It's like, well, I'm here, but I am Brazilian, I am Italian, and I won't let go. So it doesn't need to be black and white. It doesn't need to be all or nothing. You can be Brazilian and you can be Australian,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yeah.
You can.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like, and then we also have the other side of that, okay, now I'm here. I have to let go of who I used to be, and I have to embrace this new identity, but I don't know where to start from.
And I feel sadness as well at the same time.
Yes, exactly. Because I am,
Yeah.
absolutely. Like, what are you doing? Right. So I said, before we do that, we're not going to be able to find, you're not going to be able to find your place in Australia if you don't celebrate where you're from.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So start by, instead of exiling, I say, shoving it down, just dig things that you're proud of, cook the meals that you love from home, and, try to connect with people from your home country, and try to really celebrate your culture. This is a very multicultural place. So I think, it takes time, because as any grief, it has layers and it has phases.
Yeah.
And it's not something that we're going to overcome like overnight. But
Absolutely.
being aware of it is very important, and understanding that that's what you're doing.
And I guess that's where you really would need someone to walk you through that journey with
Yes.
support. It's
Yes.
not as easy as breathing or tapping it all out.
No.
And
No.
one more that I have, so I spoke to Katrina James from Reframe Counselling last week, and she spoke about her belief of the stories that we tell. So her core belief is that we're very conscious about what we put in our mouth. We put nutritious food, nutritious drinks. We're very cautious about the alcohol consumption, if we drink it at all. But we are not as mindful about what we read, what we listen to, and what we believe. So, that's the bigger core belief. But then we spoke about the stories that we tell ourselves that might not be true, So my English isn't good enough, therefore I'm not going to get that job. Okay. My resume got rejected because of my English. My interview was a disaster because they don't like my accent. All of these stories that we tell ourselves, which might come from other people's experiences in Facebook groups or social media or your friends, etc., etc., etc. So what would you say to that?
Well,
this is a hard one. I'm so sorry. This is just one that I thought about. So I'm just throwing that out to you. Like, if someone, because it's so common, right? Did you go through this?
Very super. Yeah. All the time. And I see my students that's what they do. And that is the cognitive part of it, right? So we need to challenge these thoughts. And that is, the part that, so what I can do is acknowledge the thought.
Yeah.
So instead of saying, oh, my English is not good, I say I'm having a thought that my English is not good.
Yeah, that's great. Perfect.
So it's kind of bringing in, some aspects of mindfulness and meditation and all the yoga philosophy, which is we try not, and I always say, and back to IFS, is just there parts of you. So if you say, oh, I'm not going to get the job because my English is not good, that has such a heavy weight. But if you say, oh, at this moment, I'm having a thought that my English is not good enough. So then I work with that thought and I distance myself from it. And so when I say that, what do I feel in my body?
Yeah.
Oh, I get like a very heavy sensation in my heart, and then I feel like my tummy, and I feel tense. My shoulders is really tense. Oh, okay. So is that okay to feel? Just sit with this feeling a little bit. So it's very hard for your English not to be good. So you start working with the body. So what is the sensation that this thought has provoked? And that's how we work with it.
I love that. That's It's like, it sounds so simple, but it's not.
But it is. Look, it is actually simple because it is. It's just basically, I always say, like, your awareness of anger is not angry. Your awareness of grief is not grieving. And so when you take a step back and you observe your emotion instead of wrapping it up and being it, it's so much more doable.
Yeah. And it's like, I'm just thinking about, because my daughter's 3.5, I'm like, we're teaching her emotions and we have books about anger and sadness and things like that. And it's
yes.
And like when she gets cranked, like when she has a tantrum, it's like, how do you feel? And like we try and, ask her to tell us how she feels, and we tell her it's okay to feel like that. So it's like, we have to do that with ourselves.
Yes.
We have to teach ourselves. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think, it's great that you're doing that to your daughter. And I think this is a new generation. I wasn't taught
100%.
that.
No, me neither. I don't even understand my emotions.
I wasn't allowed to express them. It was like, if I was sad, it was like, why are you crying? I'm going to give you a proper reason for you to cry. Why are you crying? Exactly.
Or just stop crying. You can't feel crying. Yeah, 100%.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, you're angry. You don't talk to me, So what we learn is to suppress and suppress and suppress. And we don't know. And then one day we just explode, or we have all those somatic reactions that we said. But basically it is, you go toward it and you go toward, so you observe, so you identify a thought. So I'm having a thought of not being worthy for this job because my English is not good. I'm having that thought right now.
Yeah.
And as I think that, what happens in my body?
Yeah. Absolutely. And a follow-up question, just like kind of everything we've spoken about, like, is there any, so as we know, people who are listening or who will listen to the replay, they're probably identifying so much.
I know
what we're saying, what you're saying, and they're probably like, oh yes, I do feel like that, blah blah blah.
We all do.
It's true. She understands me. Fernanda understands me. So A, you can work with Fernanda, but B, like, people in that that situation, would you suggest some technique? Like, I've heard about, I have it, like putting post-it notes up to give yourself kind of remembering emotions are okay, and that type of thing. Is there any just like day-to-day strategies that you would tell people to do if they don't have the money to invest in expert support right now?
Yes. So I would say 4 things. I like to say, it's just 4 things that easy. So one thing is exercise every single day, because I know it sounds like, what are you doing? What are you talking about? Yes, it is amazing. Watch what you eat, as you said. If we are already feeling anxious and already feeling depleted and tired, and we're only eating processed food, is inflaming our body. We're getting even more depressed and more anxious. Avoid coffee and too much coffee or teas and things. Okay. I know. No. I love coffee, but I know, and I can see it, what it does. I get frazzled, and I know.
Yeah.
Right. sleep is so important, and I think sleep is the most is the king of everything.
Yeah.
But you tell me, well, but I'm anxious, I can't really sleep, so what do I do? Right, so we do tapping, right? We do guided meditation. We try to stay away from phones, and I know that's another thing that's very hard for everyone. And exercise will help your sleep as well.
Yeah.
And connection,
Yeah.
if you don't have friends, like a lot of friends, just go home, speak to a friend, call your mom, call your dad, your loved one. Connection, we
And
need to connect.
sorry, I'm so sorry. I get passionate about this as well, so that's why I interrupt. So I'm sincerely sorry for interrupting
No,
you. But
please.
even connecting in Australia, I feel like so many people are so focused on study, job search, career, that, and even when they think about networking, they think about, finding a job, speaking to the CEO, speaking only to the people that can find them a job, that they forget the connections, the networks to actually build a social community in Australia.
Absolutely.
You know?
But
Go to
even our social community, like I'll have to tell you, one thing that gives me so much joy is going to my local cafe
I love
and
that.
the people who work there know you,
Yeah, I
and
love.
they know what coffee you have,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
and that is connection. That's like,
mhm,
oh, I like it. They see me, they go like, soy latte, they know me. And just making time for people who live around you, and making small talk, that is not small, it actually can change your day.
yeah, absolutely. Um,
Yeah.
and the good thing about Australia is there's actually so many opportunities for meeting people as well.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
websites like meetup.com, no matter where you live, like if you like hiking, there's probably a hiking group you can go to.
That's so true. Yes.
Probably a mums group. There's mums, library events and things like that. There's actually so many different things that, depending on your hobbies, as well as language exchange and things like that. So yeah, Australia has a lot of opportunity to connect and meet, and I do feel like we are missing that. I can't remember if it was pre-COVID as well, or if it's a post-COVID thing, but I do feel like we still need to kind of force ourselves almost to like make the effort to kind of
Yeah.
go out.
Yeah, we do. And I think because we're adults and we get so caught up, and that's the thing as well,
Yeah,
we get caught up in, oh, I already have my friends. They're back home, but I already have them.
yeah, I do that. Yeah,
We
absolutely.
do,
Yeah,
right? But okay, so it's just like, okay, so this is your home now, and you're not going to clean your home because you had a home back
yeah,
home. No,
so
you need
true.
to make your life worth here, even if it's temporary.
Perfect. And I guess we do need to acknowledge that some people might genuinely have social anxiety. And
Yes.
so it might be really hard for some people to make that jump. So what would you
Yes.
say to that? If someone feels so anxious and nervous about going and going to an event or something like that, what could you say to them?
Same thing, very similar. I would say go toward that.
Yeah,
Do some tapping. What do I feel in my body? Oh, what's happening right now? Okay, is it bearable to feel this emotion right now? And remember, anxiety, when we talk about anxiety, we're talking about fear of
yeah,
bodily sensations.
yeah.
Those sensations are not going to hurt you. They're
No,
just your body trying to protect you, because your body perceives that situation as a threat, as
yeah,
danger.
yeah,
So it's okay. It's fine. I trust myself. I'm here. It's going to be okay. Just give yourself some time. Go breathe, go back in, just in increments. If
yeah,
it's too much, and some people are introverted, they don't like overstimulation, they do
yeah,
get overwhelmed, and
yeah.
that's okay. Try to find someone that you trust, maybe like a friend, and go with them.
Absolutely. Gina's just said, I don't know if you can see this, but so many students feel like that in class, and it's incredible that with simple techniques you can unblock and motivate them.
Yeah, yes.
It's
Yeah.
really, yeah,
Thank you so much, Gina.
absolutely fascinating. Like, I feel like you've got so much passion about it.
I do. I'm very,
So,
very passionate.
yeah, but like you've got so much passion as well as so much empathy and understanding for people. Like I can see that you've been through this. You've been through the hard things in life, and you are right here with us. You know, you're not just sitting up there on your little seats, not fully understanding. You're here. You've experienced this. You're talking from education experience and personal lived experience as well.
Yeah, no,
I
totally.
can
And
see.
I always share that with everyone because
Yeah.
I say, I can learn things from books, but the most valuable lesson is it's what I have gone through. And I used to suffer. I moved. One of the reasons why I came to Australia, it was because, Brazil, it is not a safe country to be. And I was mugged a few times, and I was robbed once with a gun. And I had panic attacks. I couldn't leave the house.
Yeah.
It was very, very hard for me to deal with that anxiety. And, so I had since a very young age to deal with anxiety.
Yeah. Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
That's tough. Absolutely. So yeah. So you fully understand
I
what
do.
things that people.
I understand. And one thing I know for sure is that the bodily sensations are not going to hurt you.
Yeah, I know.
We just
That's
have
something
to.
I'm currently trying to work through. So
It's not easy. It's
hard.
very hard. It is. It's very, very hard,
Yeah.
but it's possible.
And yeah, as you said, when I talked about my daughter as like the new generation. So a lot of people watching this probably have that fear about the bodily sensation. So it's kind of just a different mindset. It's like, it's not
Yes.
going to hurt us. It's good. It's good to understand this, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I've gone really long again. Sorry.
Yeah, that's all right.
So sorry. Tell us how we can work with you.
Okay, so at the moment, I am a bit slow on Instagram, but you can reach me on Instagram on Fernanda Megda. I'm also on LinkedIn. And you can find me on my website, fernandamegda.com.au, and I offer 15-minute complimentary call. So we can have a Zoom call or phone call. You can talk, tell me about what's going on, and we can make a plan. I don't work with children directly, but I do work with the parents. Because in fairness, kids, they depending on the age, right? But I mostly work with the parents. I don't work directly with children. No, I don't.
Okay.
But tapping, it's something I do tapping with my kids.
How old is your kid, Louisa, if you don't mind us asking? And can you suggest anyone or any service that would help? Because I don't have any idea.
It depends on where they are, right?
Sydney.
Yes, yeah. In Sydney, there is Cafe, which is from the Sydney Children's Hospital. They have I don't know, what does it stand for? It's called Cafe. So it is a free service. We need referral, but they do work with children, and they do work with CBT and anxiety and depression. It's a good service. And then, yeah, there's a lot of, I don't have anyone like in mind that work with children, but I can think about it.
Maybe Louisa, maybe you could message Fernanda if you don't mind, and then
Yeah.
she could tell you the cafe thing you spoke about in Sydney and anything else that she thinks of. Because yeah, I don't know. But yeah, if you've got any follow-up questions, just let us know about that. And yeah, so, and you offer counseling 9.
9. Yeah, 9.
So
Yeah, my son is 10, and he has some anxiety as well. So the best thing for you to do, Louisa, is to go through a GP if you are I don't know what your visa situation is. If you have Medicare, go to your GP and ask for a referral to see a counselor or a psychologist.
And the tapping that we did, would that help?
That would help. Yes, absolutely. Do with your, as a son, do with your child, do with them and explain to them. What I like to I'll just quickly say, I had a family member, a friend, like family friend, whose daughter was suffering from
Mm-hmm.
anxiety, like a lot of anxiety. So even though I don't work with kids, I worked with her. And I just explained to them, like, inside your little body, there is this fire alarm. And the fire alarm is always look for dangers, for threats and for problems. And when we get anxious, it's because the fire alarm found, that there is a problem. And I always say, but the thing is, the fire alarm doesn't speak English or our language. The fire alarm speaks the body language. So
Yeah.
how are we going to talk to the fire alarm? Are we going to teach it that everything is okay? Is through the body. So what can we do? So we do the tapping. So we're sending signals to the fire alarm in our body that everything is okay.
Yeah.
You can ask your child to draw, maybe like, what is it that is bothering them? What are they worried about? And as with IFS, you can say, oh, okay, so let's just draw this worried part. So what does it look like? Do you want to give it a name? So we try to familiarize that instead of running away, we're walking towards it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of little techniques that you can. I'm happy to, if you want to maybe have a 15-minute chat, I'm happy to give you some of the tips that I know. Even though I don't work with kids, I can give you some guidance.
That's beautiful, and just that proves that you care and you're passionate. So yeah.
Yeah.
When I post the replay, I'll put up your link. And Louisa, you should just connect with Fernanda as well. Just to stay in her world and see her posts. But yeah, I'll put the link up so you could book the 15-minute chat on her website as well.
Yes.
I'm feeling really calmed. Like, is it a calming technique as well?
Yes, it is.
For my toddler, or if I was just calming, I don't know. Who knows? What's the difference? But tell us. So you do consultations, and it's an all-in-one. So you don't have a tapping consultation or breathe. You just kind of have the consultations and decide what's best for the client. Is that right?
Yeah, it depends on what the client needs and what they're looking for. Yes, and also it's depending on the demand, what the client needs. It might be like a one-off, just have a chat, or it might be like, well, I'm really anxious at the moment, I need to see you more often, we can do it weekly or once a month. It really depends. But I'm very open, and I think I understand the financial situation, and I don't want to say, oh, you have to come and see me every week, because that's not realistic. And therapy is supposed to help you, not give you more anxiety.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more with that. But as I said before, like your prices are extremely fair. We were talking about that before. And am I right about you offering a 10% discount?
Yes. So yes, for your clients, I'm happy to offer 10%. And what I do is I already offer packages, so which is more economical. So I'm happy to honor the 10% on packages as well.
Yeah. And just clients, or kind of anyone who might not be a client but are watching the replay?
Yes, absolutely. Anyone that comes from you, I'm happy to honor the 10%.
Perfect. So, and how can they book that if they want to?
So I think the best way it is through my website or LinkedIn or Instagram. Just send me a DM.
Perfect. So yeah, so for now, so I'll put all Fernanda's details, including her website. And if you do want to book, you could start with a free consultation, the 15-minute one. And then you can chat to Fernanda, and then it will be 10% discount if you come from this, which is super generous. Yeah, so yeah, you've been phenomenal tonight. Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I had lots of fun.
Yeah, good. I'm so sorry. I said like 20 minutes. Like, look how long this has been.
I talk a lot, and I'm very passionate about it. I can talk for 2 hours.
And I had so many questions as well, because I was asking questions based on what my clients are going through. And
no, but it's good. I think it's informative. That's what we want. We want people to understand, because as I said, because this is my world, I kind of assume everyone knows about it.
Yeah.
But I know that is not the case.
Perfect. No worries, Gina.
Thank you so much. Thank you
so much, everyone. Yeah, and if you're watching the replay, please reach out. Just follow Fernanda. She
That
puts
would be very good.
yeah, she's on Instagram as well, but she posts some really really great content as well. On Instagram, I was like saving some of your posts a few weeks ago because they were good for me,
Oh,
like talking
thank
about the
you.
breathing and things like that. So yeah,
That's good to know.
definitely go and check Fernanda out, and yeah, get in touch if you want to book the 15-minute chat. And I hope you can see just how passionate and how much she cares. Like, it's truly evident. And not just that though, but you know, like, you know your shit, right?
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
Yes, I do.
All right, well, thank you so much, and thank you to everyone who joined. Yeah, thank you.
Excellent. Bye, Natalie. Thank you so
Bye.
much.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye,
Bye.
everyone.